Round one of the NFL draft is in the books. What should we make of it? Quarterbacks off the top. Is Anthony Richardson really a top 4 quarterback? Where's Will Levis? Tight ends don't make the impact. Wide receivers hold on until the 20s to come off the board. So much to look at. We are moving over to the College Football Playbook channel. Join us now here on the best noon sports show, period. Hello. It's been a long time. For many of you, you've never seen this show. It's been on my personal channel. Moving it here over to the College Football Playbook channel, at least for now. For those of you who are not familiar, this is not the Big Me kickoff. This is more of a national show, a little less Ohio State centric, trying to reach a larger audience. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you don't miss an episode. If you hear us on any of your favorite podcasting channels, give us a 5-star review. Really helps us out. Okay, now that that's done, let's talk about the NFL draft. 31 picks are in the books as of Thursday night. The draft went 11 million hours after the comedy stylings of Dude Perfect and a lot of other stupid stuff that just was able to drag it out on and on and on. I thought moving it from 15 minutes between rounds to 10 minutes was supposed to accelerate things. I thought wrong. It is what it is. It was a good night for most programs, organizations. Maybe not as great for some others. We'll kind of get into that. It was a really good night for the 31 players who got drafted. 4-year deals with a 5th-year club option, large signing bonuses. Lives are going to be changed. Generational wealth will be delivered to a lot of these players, so help them that they don't be foolish with their money. But I think we're seeing a lot more financial learning that is going on now. Guys are getting money with NIL. This is not their first taste of money. So congratulations to everybody who's put in all the hard work to get to this point. Now, how many of you watched the draft? And those of you who watched the draft, did you watch it on ESPN? Did you watch it on NFL Network? How did you consume it? I really wish in a lot of ways that it was on one channel, because then we wouldn't have to sync commercials. We wouldn't have one network or the other in commercial and have to wait 26 minutes for a pick to go through that it's been in. Twitter was absolutely schooling the broadcast by getting picks out there early. I like that, and I don't like that. I don't like it because I enjoy watching it like a fan. I enjoy watching the draft and being surprised. Hearing the analysts who are there doing this real time, talking about a guy all the way up into the last second, only to have a curveball come out and surprise them with who's been picked. You don't have that on Twitter because generally these guys are getting it as soon as the pick is made, and somewhere in the chain, whether it's coming out of the war room or it's coming, when the NFL is getting it and they're getting the name on the jersey, whatever it is, they're getting it out there first. Now, one thing that wasn't a surprise was your number 1 overall pick, Bryce Young of Alabama. Rewind 3 weeks ago, and it seemed like that might be CJ Stroud. He was the betting favorite. And then CJ Stroud drops. More on him in a minute. What are your thoughts on Bryce Young and Carolina? Now, I did see some very interesting things in watching television that were very true. We all talk about short quarterbacks having to throw it over the line. Well, that's not entirely the case. You'd have to be pretty damn tall to be throwing it over the line. You're throwing it between the trees, not through the trees. Granted, we see a lot of passes get batted down, so that doesn't always necessarily work out. We keep having these comparisons of Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, with Bryce Young. Is that fair? We're talking about 2 of the premier under 6-foot quarterbacks that have gone through the system. And then like the next name that gets thrown out there is Doug Flutie. Really? Doug freaking Flutie? We're having to go back a ways there. He's still busy like hawking, extension pills or whatever for GNC now at this point with Frank Thomas and Andy Van Slyke or somebody. I don't even know. I just laugh when I see those commercials. Bryce Young is a competitor. Bryce Young is a baller. I think he's going to have some success. Carolina is a organization that still has a lot of needs. I think we see Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, quarterbacks like that who come out and have extreme success in the college game. Get to the league, go and play for a team that ain't no good. And then suddenly this quarterback ain't no good by default because he can't be protected. He doesn't have anybody to throw it to. I don't know if Carolina is necessarily going to be as bad as year one Jacksonville under Trevor Lawrence. But, I think people are going to have a little bit of patience in remembering that he's not just suddenly being inserted on the Eagles or the Chiefs or something like that. There is a reason that Carolina traded a lot away to move up to the number one pick to get its quarterback of the future. How many quarterbacks of the future work out? Some do, some don't. Where are you, Trey Lance? Where are you, Zach Wilson? Where are you? Some of them just can't break through and get the starting job, and some get the starting job and fail hard. I don't necessarily see that being the case with Bryce Young, but I think it's going to be a bumpy road. So show a little bit of patience there. And I say that too, really, for the other two quarterbacks that were taken in the top 4. CJ Stroud, who's gone through a lot in terms of just the NFL. I'm really surprised they didn't say that he kicked nuns and puppies and such with the character assassination that he went through. Okay, one thing is the S2 test. Whether or not those scores were accurate, I don't know. 15 out of 32 NFL teams even really recognize the S2 test. It would kind of be like if you're in an ACT area and you take the SAT and does the school necessarily know what to do with that? I mean, I guess. And again, standardized tests are kind of going the way of the dodo at this point. But uncoachable, just people just even trying to call him dumb. I mean, that just outrageous. I have eyes. I know what I saw on tape. with CJ Stroud. Yes, he does have a few shortcomings. Show me the first perfect quarterback out there. The first one. Because I've not seen it. Show me the first perfect quarterback in this draft. All of them had wrinkles in their game. All of them had little things. Bryce Young's too short. Anthony Richardson can't hit water in the middle of the ocean. Will Levis, we'll get to Will Levis in a minute. And CJ Stroud, not the most mobile guy, even though we saw a lot of progression here in his second and final collegiate year. There maybe a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But where did this vitriol come from? Where did this crap? I mean, we'll just call it what it is. Where did this crap come from to start? Did it come from Houston? Was Houston trying to cook the books a little bit? Did it? I mean, I don't understand necessarily how this happens. I mean, there were willing participants in the media who were just eating it up with Zeke spoon. Yes, more. I don't understand. And yes, you can only report the things you hear. And I think the professionals are the ones that are like, I'm hearing from teams and blah, blah, blah. This is happening. And then there are ones that just sit there and accept it as fact or try to present it as fact. That's just irresponsible. That's irresponsible and lazy. But then again, I guess I didn't read it on Reddit. Again, wait. We'll talk about Will Levis in a minute. But it just shows you the stupid season of the NFL draft. I love the NFL draft for about 50 weeks of 52. About 50 weeks, it's one of my favorite things to follow. It's right there close to recruiting. Because in a lot of ways, there's an element of recruiting, even though in the draft, you're picked. In recruiting, you pick. But it's still a soap opera. There's still a lot going on. But there's about 2 weeks of just absolute malarkey, absolute garbage, where I stop reading mock drafts. I just can't deal with it. I mean, I have 2 or 3 places that I enjoy reading their stuff. I mean, some of the major publications, Pro Football Network is one that I highly recommend. I'm not getting a kickback, just somebody that I enjoy reading. But there's just a lot of junk out there. But CJ Stroud goes number 2, and all is well. We're not going to go through every pick because we'd end up going an hour plus on the show. But I'm going to touch upon a lot of things here. I thought about going live, but being here on a relatively new channel, not sure I would have had enough audience, and I'm just end up talking to myself anyway. Houston goes and gets CJ Stroud 2, and then Houston makes a huge trade to move up to number 3 as well and gets its top defensive player, Will Anderson Jr. Was that a master stroke or just a stroke? Time will tell. Remember, Houston has all of Cleveland's picks for Deshaun Watson. And I'll massage that whole topic carefully. I think that there are a lot of people out there that just immediately panned it. Oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this. It's Ditka all over again. It's Minnesota and Dallas making that trade that, built the Dallas franchise for years. I don't know about it. It was a king's ransom. They had the picks to spare. It better work out. It better work out. It better bear fruit pretty quickly, or it's going to be looked at like that. Is Will Anderson the safest pick in the draft? No, probably not. Is Will Anderson a tremendous football player? Absolutely. Absolutely. But does everybody immediately flash? I mean, windows get smaller. It gets to be very difficult out there. So we'll see. We'll see. But I for one am very interested in the pick. I think it was a good move. But I may be in the minority. I don't know. All right, then we get to number 4 in Indianapolis, and Anthony Richardson goes there. Say what you will about Anthony Richardson. He is a tremendous athlete. Is he a tremendous quarterback? No. Was Florida tremendous trash last year in terms of its offense? Yes. Will he have better people around him? Well, obviously, he's playing in the top, in the NFL. That's the top of the top of the top. But I urge everybody out there to find somebody who loves them as much as David Carr on NFL Network loves Anthony Richardson. I just could not understand this love affair that a former NFL quarterback was having with a guy that's a 50% passer. Yes, Richardson has rededicated himself. He's been out there working with QB gurus. Florida did not have any receivers last year. There are a lot of things that are different, but Indianapolis better have gotten that one right. And then again, maybe they just think that they'll be there and they can get Caleb Williams next year. But that wouldn't be fair to anybody to give Anthony Richardson 1 year. But I don't know. Do you thrust him out there here in 2023, 24 and say, sink or swim? Do you bring him along a little bit more like you're going to redshirt him for a year? I just think that there's going to need to be a lot of work there. Now, we could sit there and go back in 5 years. People would be like, no, you were wrong. You were wrong, man. You were just all over this guy. What's your damage? I don't have the gift of hindsight at this point. But here, less than 24 hours after the pick was made, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Now we get to Will Levis. The mayonnaise coffee drinking quarterback who couldn't beat out Sean Clifford at Penn State, transfers to Kentucky, plays football, not necessarily great football, not necessarily bad football, just football. And the hype machine that was around that. A Redditor said he was going to go 1. Mel Kiper Jr., where did he have him? 1? Something along those lines? Well, poor Will Levis and his hot girlfriend are still sitting in the green room right now trying to figure out what happened. And I feel bad for him because he got built up. He got built up by this BS narrative that he was a lot better than he was. These NFL teams, they make stupid picks all the time. Stupid picks. There's a reason why NFL GMs are on the endangered species list. They get fired all the time. But they do their research. They do their research and they come to a decision. Right or wrong, they come to a decision. And apparently the decision was Will Levis is not a first-round quarterback. And he sits. And you got to wonder, where does he come off the board? Surely he's going to come off the board in round 2, isn't he? You're not saddled to, a potential 5-year deal at that point. It's probably a little easier to dump a second rounder than a first rounder if things don't work out. But you got to figure that there's a lot of GMs that are just like, well, we could probably wait and see if he's still there our next pick. There's certainly organizations that probably need a quarterback, but Will Levis may sit there and look like Tarzan when he has his shirt off in his posts. But his game, the rest of the saying, his game is not, equal to the physique. He may look like a golden god, but the game ain't there. So, and then let me throw this out there too. What about Hendon Hooker? What about Hendon Hooker from Tennessee? Before the draft, his medical team came out and said that he will be good to go by the start of the season. Remember, crushing ACL injury down the stretch after the Bama game, everything else. Hendon Hooker is becoming the darling to win the Heisman, gets hurt, shut down. Could Hendon Hooker go ahead of Will Levis? I mean, I think if you're a better team that has an aging quarterback or a quarterback that's coming to an end of a contract or something like that, do you sit there and take Hendon Hooker, who at least has better tape, ahead of Will Levis? Somebody who, again, makes some great plays, makes some dumb plays, is a little bit of an interception machine? I don't know. Let me re-welcome everybody here to the Best Noon Sports Show, period. We've moved over to the College Football Playbook channel, at least for now. Trying to get this channel built up. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell. Don't miss a single episode of anything on this channel, as we're putting a lot of effort over here. Leave us a 5-star review. And while you're at it, if you're a Buckeye fan or you just like football in general, check out BuckeyeHuddle.com. Sign up over there. Let's get to pick 5, and that's Devin Witherspoon. A steal for Seattle? I think so. There's a lot of debate whether or not Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon or Devin Witherspoon was going to be the guy at corner. Obviously, it was Devin Witherspoon, the Illinois player. I think this was a tremendous pick. Now, I didn't see any situation where Witherspoon would go ahead of the first 4 guys. I think 5 was his cap, in my opinion. But I still feel it's a steal. I still think that this is a huge pickup for Seattle. And Seattle makes another pick later, and we'll get to that in a minute. Paris Johnson Jr. goes to Arizona at 6, which is pretty good. I saw anywhere from like 3 to 15 for Paris Johnson Jr. I think he's a safe pick. I think he's somebody you plug in there, played guard, played tackle at Ohio State. Certainly gives you some versatility, and the Cardinals need that. Let's get to another huge storyline, and that's how Philadelphia is becoming Athens, Georgia North. They pick up a pair of Bulldogs to create 4 from recent UGA teams on the Eagles defense with Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. I'm a Cowboys fan. People know that. People know that I'm a Cowboys fan. If you're new to the channel, guess what? I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm sorry. Maybe not after this year. I'm getting sick and tired of their garbage. Seeing the Eagles keep doing this, seeing the Eagles playing chess while the Cowboys eat checkers pieces just really annoys the living crap out of me. 2 great picks. I mean, I'm a big Nolan Smith fan. The injury derailed his season. I'm more of a Nolan Smith fan than I am a Jalen Carter fan. I mean, I wouldn't have picked them in the other order. But I think Nolan Smith could be a little bit more impactful. And okay. Where are his sack numbers? Not all defenses are set up the same way, so I'm not going to get caught up in that. But I think Nolan Smith is a stud, and I really like Jalen Carter. But I think Jalen Carter is going to have to get worked some. I think he's going to have to get worked some. I mean, I know that going into the Peach Bowl, everybody was talking about how Jalen Carter was going to do this, that, and the other, and he kind of didn't. He looked gassed most of that game. but it is what it is. Let's move ahead to Chicago. They take Darnell Wright, the offensive tackle out of Tennessee. I have some mixed feelings here. Yes, Chicago has to get better on the offensive line. They're going to get Justin Fields killed if they don't play better on the line. And you're going to have to do it by way of draft and free agency. And I think Darnell Wright is a solid pickup. But you better be finding some options for Justin Fields to be able to throw the ball to. Period. At this point, a couple of the receivers on that team, I think, are peanut vendors over there at Soldier Field. It's pretty pathetic of what the situation is. And I'm not saying that they necessarily should have absolutely gone receiver at that point. I mean, receivers slid another 11 spots. But I think you could have probably gotten Darnell Wright in the teens, in the mid-teens. Maybe pick up a couple more picks. I just feel it's a little bit of a reach. Speaking of reaches, let's talk about Detroit. Two players that I like very much, two players I don't like at the selections they were taken. I don't think that there was any reason to grab Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back out of Alabama, or Jack Campbell, the linebacker out of Iowa, when Detroit did. If we're going to sit there and forever crucify Matt Millen for his wide receiver only drafts, can we sit there and talk about Detroit overreaching for both of these players? Now, if you don't have a trade partner, you don't have a trade partner. I get it. But with that being said, I don't understand. I've seen a lot of draft grades saying Detroit F. Well, I don't know if it's an F. I think it's an F in terms of when they took these guys. I think that both of these players are solid players, but I don't think history is going to show that they were taken at the right spots. Talking about Iowa, though, how about Iowa putting two guys in the first round? You had Campbell, and then you had Lucas Van Ness going 13 to Green Bay. I thought Green Bay was going to go receiver. Goodbye, Aaron Rodgers. We were never going to draft you a receiver. Guess what we're going to do as soon as you're gone? Draft a receiver. Wrong. They took Lucas Van Ness. Oh, he didn't start at Iowa. I don't care. He's really good. He's really good. We'll see. We'll see. Let's move up to 17, New England. Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez was right there with Devin Weatherspoon in my book in terms of corner. Damn you, Bill Belichick. Damn you to hell. Another great player going there. Granted, it's not the same Patriots team that we were talking about a few years ago. But they sure know how to draft. They sure know how to draft. That is, I love that pick. I love that pick. There are some picks that I love. There's some picks I like. There's some picks I hate. I love that pick. I think that is a fantastic, fantastic pick. All right, wide receivers don't come off the board till 20, and then 4 go in rapid fire with Jackson Smith-Njigba going number 1 of the receivers to Seattle. Seattle's second first-round pick. I think that's going to be a great pick. Gets to play inside. Obviously, there were no huge medical concerns coming out of the combine and everything else. JSN proved everything else that he needed to show, that he wanted to show. I think all of that is very important in the grand scheme of things. So you do that. You round out your receivers with Quentin Johnson from TCU going to the Chargers, Zay Flowers from BC going to the Ravens, and then Jordan Addison going to the Vikings. So I think that run makes sense. I thought that run would happen 6 picks earlier, and that's not. I mean, that's just kind of a ballpark. Everything is a matter of what teams need and everything else. You can't just sit there and say, I'm picking this up and moving it over here. It doesn't work that way. Keep scrolling up in my notes. All right. As I said earlier, I'm a Dallas fan. I was 6 kinds of pissed off that Buffalo moved up and snagged Dalton Kincaid before Dallas could take him. Dallas lets its tight end walk to Houston. Dallas is going to absolutely take a tight end. Dallas is either going to take Dalton Kincaid or Michael Mayer. Well, Michael Mayer is still on the board. Dalton Kincaid goes to Buffalo. And I've gone round and round with people, and I'm going to die on this hill. I would take Dalton Kincaid over Michael Mayer 100 out of 100 times, period. And I'm sure people are going to be like, well, you just don't like Notre Dame. Well, be that as it may. Be that as it may. I still like Dalton Kincaid. Look at the USC game. Dalton Kincaid is a prolific offensive weapon. Michael Mayer was Notre Dame's main offensive weapon on a team that was devoid of offensive weapons. Dalton Kincaid was able to step up with a team that has a pretty solid quarterback in Cam Rising, had Brent Keithy before he got hurt, which really made Dalton Kincaid more of a focal point. I love that pick. And on the flip side, I'm not a big fan of Dallas taking Mazi Smith. Okay, Kevin, we know you have an Ohio State show, multiple shows that you appear on, your own show for Ohio State. You don't like him because he went to Michigan. That has nothing to do with it. Honestly, if Dallas would have drafted Aiden Hutchinson when, during that draft, which was not going to happen in terms of how things work out, I would have been all about it. I would have been all about it because you take off the college hat and you put on the pro hat, and it's different. Things happen at that point. But Mazi Smith is a third down run stuffer. Maybe he's the best. Maybe he is the best at that position, and it was just too great of a thing that you had to address. I don't think so. I think he would have been there at 58 for Dallas, honestly. And guess what? If he isn't, there are plenty of guys that are comparable. Not as good. I'll say that. Not as good as Mazi Smith on day 3. You have other needs. Michael Mayer is not going to be there at 58. Luke Musgrave of Oregon State is not going to be there at 58. So I don't know what the plan is. But then again, you got Jerry and Steven and the rest of the Jones family making picks, doing their best Al Davis. I'm about ready to give up on the Cowboys. I really am. There was a day and age where people are like, "You're from LA. I don't know how you're a Cowboys fan, you front runner." Now I tell people I'm a Cowboys fan. They're like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Why would you do that to yourself?" Oh, talk about an unforced error. I know. I like the Bengals a little bit now. I think it's because of Joe Burrow. But, it is what it is. But, I kind of gone through my thoughts on the first round. I mean, there certainly were a lot of other picks, a lot of other grades, but we're getting ready for round 2 and 3 here later on Friday. Not sure I'm going to get on and do a 2-3 show. We'll see. I guess it depends on what comes out of it. If we see absolute pandemonium and chaos, maybe I'll be motivated. I guess it depends on how many of you find me over here. So tell your friends. I would really appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell, all that good stuff. But until the next time, I want to thank everybody for watching. Have a great night. Have a great weekend.